Hello and welcome to Annie's Rants. This is going to be a collection of videos made by me, consisting of me doing a quick rant preceding one of my poems. This is actually number 2 in a series. Number 1 was about Christmas, and I haven't uploaded it because I thought, well, it's a bit late now for Christmas. I might do it at some point. I've had a few technical hitches. That's the problem. I don't really know what I'm doing. Being a technophobe, when I went to school, you know, we didn't have a computer, and we definitely didn't have IT classes. I think we got to play on a computer once in 6 years, and it was only for an hour. We played Space Invaders, and that was the end of it. That was my sum total of IT experience. Anything I've learned about IT, I learned after school. Anyway, that's not the subject I'm talking about today. The subject I wanted to touch on is the NHS. The NHS has been in the news quite a lot because of the A&E departments across Great Britain that are currently under so much pressure from the amount of people who are turning up, and quite often turning up with things that they could have had sorted out by a doctor, or things that they could have gone to. It's alright, the house isn't on fire, I'm having a smoke. It was just me being hot, you know. Maybe I do need to see a doctor. Yeah, I am smoking. Okay, you know, kids, don't smoke, it's bad for you, and you'll end up needing the NHS, and in the future won't be an NHS, and you'll be too poor to afford it. Just don't do it. It's too expensive, and it wrecks your health. So now we've established I'm not on fire, or I'm about to spontaneously combust. I'm not. Back to the NHS. I was thinking about this subject before it became big news. Basically because I've had the misfortune of spending quite a lot of time in accident and emergency departments the early hours of the morning. And if you've ever been in one of those places, excuse me while I get comfortable, if you've ever been in one of those places early hours of the morning, they are really, really scary. Because, you know, with the early hours of the morning, you've got a lot of people coming in who are under the influence of alcohol, want to fight the world, and they could be the meekest, mildest person during the day, but get 3 double gins down them and half a dozen Sambuca shots or God knows what, and they're ready to take on anyone, usually the poor staff who work there. And you can sort of understand why they've got security staff in there. Well, they did when I used to go. Well, I went through work and through my own health issues because unfortunately I'm one of those people who tends to be quite clumsy, as any of you met me at Monday Club might know. So I was thinking about all the people that go in there, and when I was in there, it was absolutely mad. There was, like, you know, people who might be waiting to be assessed for a mental health issue, and they're wandering around and talking whatever is going through their brain, and sometimes discussing with their voices what they're saying if they've not been taken off to be assessed by the mental health team. You've also got there's always the obligatory woman with about 6 kids, and she's either too ill or too distressed to handle her children. There's one on a pram screaming or asleep, and the other 5 are running around having the time of their lives while the rest of the people are just ill. And you've got the usual broken bones, and you've got people who are, you know, might be living on the streets, might have alcohol or drug issues, are coming in. I don't really want to be there, but they've been brought in because they're out of it, and now they're coming around and saying, I don't want to be here and want to fight the world yet again. Poor staff. And then you always seem to have one elderly lady with a shopping trolley and a headscarf on, who's like, you know, about the size of Mrs. Pepperpot, and she's sitting there in the middle of all this chaos. And I used to think, is there anything wrong with her? Or does she come in here because it cost her nothing to get her warm, the tea was out of the machine, it was cheap, or the soup, if you were going to risk that powdery stuff that they add water to and call soup, or is she just thinking, well, it's warm in here and it costs me nothing, it's better than EastEnders? Or is she a frustrated poet? And if so, I demand to see the work, because I tell you what, she must have a hell of a lot of material from that place. But by the by, what made me mad last night was there was a gentleman on a programme quite late on. It was after question time. I think his name was Simon something. Boris knows who it is. And he really did me head in, because he was going on that we should be made to pay for the NHS. And that if more people had to pay for it, there would be more respect and less time wasters turning up and clogging the system. And I was screaming at the telly, pay for it, we already do. What is national insurance and tax for? You know, what, I've got to pay for insurance as well on top of that. I can just afford to pay my tax and my national insurance. And my God, if I have to pay for my own prescriptions, which I don't because I'm diabetic, I'd be one sick lady because I couldn't afford them. They're subsidised because I'm diabetic. I was just like maddened by it. I thought, we've imported a lot of crap from America, and the last thing I want to import is this system of giving basic health care to people who can't afford to pay for it, and everybody else gets rich pickings. I mean, Diane Abbott pointed out that, like, you know, the risk we'd run of having health care that we have to pay for is the woman who lives at home or the man who lives at home, chaotic lifestyle, children whose children might get really ill and not understanding the system, not be able to present at the hospital in the belief that, you know, they're going to have to pay for it, and the child is lying there very seriously ill with some god-awful infection or, you know, virus such as meningitis, and like not get health care until it's too late, or not call for help until it's too late. God forbid that should happen. I don't want to live in a society where I've got to pay for healthcare. And I know we almost at some point we live in a society where better healthcare is provided to those who can afford to go private. But I don't want to have to afford to go private to get healthcare. Not that I could afford it anyway. You know, trying to afford, when you're working and not on a particularly great wage, trying to afford dental care, your NHS costs, or any sort of prescriptions almost cripples you anyway. Made me mad. You never have guessed. Anyway, and I was thinking, there are people who turn up and who are time wasters and get on your nerves, and you think, come on, use your common sense. Have you got any common sense? I know it's difficult at times to get a doctor's appointment. My GP surgery is classic, because, you know, you phone up for an appointment, you might get one with your GP 3 weeks later. And at the moment I'm suffering this because I had to go to the GPs, and I ended up having to get an emergency appointment with a doctor who doesn't know me, I've never met, will probably never see again, who knew nothing about me, and basically couldn't give me the sort of help and support I needed. So I'm going to have to wait the 3 weeks anyway to see my own GP to get it sorted. So that was a complete waste of time. And I know there's a lot of systems out there that aren't brilliant with GP surgeries, that do need to be improved, but I don't want to have to pay to see my GP, and I don't want to have to think, well, I can't go and see my GP, I can't go to hospital. You know, we have walk-in centres out there, and the walk-in centres are fabulous places, and if people use the common sense, they would say, well, I can ask a pharmacist, or I can go to a walk-in centre. I have asked advice from the pharmacist, and, you know, we've got one of those, I mean, pharmacists love giving help, especially if they work on boots, but that's another story. But our pharmacist, our chemist, has got like a little supposed to be private room now in their shop. It's not that private because you can hear everything, so for God's sake, don't go in there and start discussing piles or like his strange rash downstairs, because believe me, you don't want the whole shop sitting there waiting for the prescription going, it's alright love, don't give me it yet because I want to find out what happened. Not that I was there for that reason. But my phone's twinging, I don't know why it's doing anything. I've just realised my clock is wrong. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Walk-in centres are great places because they can assess you and they can make a decision if you are too sick to be seen by them, that you know, and they can streamline it so you go into hospital and see someone straight away. This has actually worked for my sister in the past when she was ill. But it just makes me mad that people are still turning up at accident emergency departments and haven't got the common sense to work out that something they've got is basically could be cured with a paracetamol. I know there's better safe than sorry, but there is also better safe than sorry needs to be tempered with a little bit of common sense. And as I was saying, I don't want to end up like America. I don't want, you know, whether a person lives or dies to be determined by whether you've got an overdraft, a credit card, or the amount of money to sustain that person's life because you can afford to. Although there is some of that these days, I believe. But I also don't want an NHS that's so overstretched and like staff that are so underpaid that we have fewer and fewer doctors working in accidents, emergency or any specialist surgeries that are available on the NHS. And I've had quite a few friends who recently have needed help with the NHS and couldn't praise them enough for the sort of care and support that they've had. So with this in mind, I wrote a poem, and this is called From A to E. From heart attacks to broken backs, sprains and strains, ODs from crack, Kylie's fell off her shoes, pissed as a twat, her paramedics under attack from a drunken punches as she lashes out and roars. Triage staff covered in blood and spew from the knife fight kid who died at 1:45. Poor old Ethne's got broken hips, and Chloe's infected from injecting Botox in her lips, and there's a child crying in cubicle 4 because daddy's bleeding all over the floor. As the posh man claims he fell in the bath and that's how the toy duck got stuck up his ass, attending staff too exhausted to laugh. I've heard it all before. Jimmy's demanding his can of special brew. He's covered in shit and piss and spew. Claims he's only had a few, but the staff nurse knows the score. Then there's the broken nails, the kids with a chill, the student wanting the morning after pill, the A&E regulars, same old faces, the paper cuts, the waste of spaces, clogging the system, hogging the chairs, the nurse and staff running on empty. Oh, no time to care anymore. Welcome to the NHS, underfunded and overspent, with a Tory government hell-bent on poisoning at the core, intent on killing off the idle poor. What will you do when it's not there anymore? When it's too dear to make that emergency call? Sit in your chair with an air of you couldn't care less, or get up and fight? Too late to save the NHS. Thank you. And before I go, I'll just tell you a joke that I told my mum when she was in hospital and made her crack up and got her into trouble with the doctor. What's the difference between God and a doctor? God doesn't think he's a doctor. Goodbye for now, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.